Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this episode, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland and Disneyland history with mementos, snapshots, and postcards sent from Disneyland from 1955 to the present. Today, I'm starting off by thanking my patrons from patreon.com. You can join and receive mail from my desk or from my Disneyland trips. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the e-ticket patrons Tania, Eric Daniels, Joe Gamble, Scott Booker, Monica Seitz Vega, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, Scott Cagle, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Grace Coate, Brian Crawford, Ben and Noel Bruning, Patty Wolin, Angela Reynolds, Greg Gorley, and Aaron Moran. B-ticket patrons Jeff and Paige Orton, and Joshua, and Exorable Tosh Bell. And the A-ticket patrons Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Maggie and Henry Byers, Angel DeBlois, and the All Aboard podcast. You can also sign up for my new newsletter for a chance to get some postcards delivered by the USPS to your mailbox. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has Mickey Mouse wearing a large yellow bow tie, a black tailcoat, and red pants. Standing in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle, in the background you can see guests posing for a photo. On the back it reads, "It all started with the mouse. Disneyland's #1 star, Mickey Mouse, poses proudly in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle before greeting new friends visiting the Magic Kingdom." It's postmarked June 22, 1974, with the U.S. Postal Service Serving America, United States Postal Service, cancel, and 2 10-cent U.S. flag postage stamps, Scott number 1509. I assume they visit the park on Friday, June 21, 1974, when park hours were from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. The weather was a high of 83 and a low of 57. It's addressed to June Batterman of London, England. It reads, "Mom, yes, I have, and this is the #1 brother. He doesn't talk much. Love, Mark." I recently went to an antique store and came across a book I did not have in my collection. It's a large coffee table book with Sleeping Beauty Castle on the cover, with fireworks painting the sky in the background. I have similar books from different anniversaries like the 50th and the 30th, and a few others that are not directly tied to a milestone anniversary. Although this book does not directly say that it was made for Disneyland's 45th anniversary, it was published in 2000. Like other editions, the book is filled with images and short stories and descriptions of the different lands and attractions at the park. One of my favorite things to do is go through these pictures and find the images that are rare and possibly only used for this book. I also like looking at the unique features that are included in the book. For instance, within the first few pages, there's a section entitled Strolling Down Memory Lane in the Happiest Place on Earth. This is a timeline that starts in 1955, listing all the opening day attractions, and then goes year by year with photos and bullet points of important changes to the park. It ends in the year 2000, listing that in January, Disneyland kicks off a year-long celebration of its 45th birthday. In the next section, it describes the spark and creation of Disneyland, and includes many photos and images of the park commonly used in books. Similarly, the photos used to show off Main Street are the standard photos, except one of the Disneyland band, wearing their red uniforms and seated in Town Square, with music stands and the conductor standing in front of them. The next set of great photos come from the Frontierland section of the book. The opening photo that fills up the page is of the Columbia, coming around New Orleans Square down the rivers of America. In front of the Columbia is a Mike Fink keelboat, with guests inside, on top, and in front of the boat. 2 pages later, there's a photo of guests making a semicircle around Pioneer Mercantile, watching a performance of Billy Hill and the Hillbillies, and Chip wearing a Western outfit. Later in the Frontierland section, there's an additional image of the Bertha May keelboat racing against a canoe, and some great photos inside Fort Wilderness when guests were still able to go in and explore the fort. In the New Orleans Square section, there's a great photo from inside the Disney Gallery when it was on top of Pirates of the Caribbean. The image includes a mime wearing a top hat and a name tag next to some concept art from the 1998 animated feature film, Mulan. There's also a unique image of 2 of the dancers from the Haunted Mansion ballroom scene photographed at ground level. Great news, Enfield Post is back up on Etsy. Grabbing some vintage stamps is a great way to plus your mail, whether you're trying to match the color of your postcard or envelope or adding a themed stamp to the back of your mail. Be sure to check out Enfield Post. You can head over to enfieldpost.com and explore all the different vintage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram and enfieldpost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has Mickey Mouse standing in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle with the Matterhorn in the background. This time he's wearing a slightly smaller yellow bow tie, a black tailcoat, red pants, and a white vest. On the back it reads, "Welcome to Fantasyland. Mickey Mouse greets visitors in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle, gateway to the happiest land of them all, Fantasyland." It's postmarked October 20th, 1980, with an Anaheim cancel and 2 5-cent George Washington postage stamps. Scott number 1283B. I assume they visit the park on Sunday, October 19th, 1980, when park hours were from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The weather was a high of 88 and a low of 51. It's addressed to Eileen Piatti of Tacoma, Washington. It reads, "Hi, this is our trip before Denver. Did you have a good time at Kent's? Right. Ruth, Georgie 2." Looking at the Critter Country section, there are 2 pages dedicated to the Country Bear Jamboree, with images of Big Al, Trixie, Teddy Barra, and the 5 Bear Rugs. This is interesting because a year later, the attraction would be removed from the park and replaced with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh attraction. Moving over to Fantasyland, there are some great images of Storybook Land canal boats, including the 3 windmills, which have also since been replaced, and Triton's Garden and Ariel's Grotto. This is where guests would meet Ariel with her mermaid tail, which is now where guests meet Tinkerbell. Toontown also highlights a few extinct attractions, including an image of Chip and Dale in their Rescue Rangers outfits in front of their treehouse, the Jolly Trolley, passing through Mickey Mouse's neighborhood, and the original sign for Goofy's Bounce House. The last chapter, dedicated to a land, is focused on Tomorrowland. Similar to the Country Bears being removed shortly after this book came out, the rocket rods are also highlighted in this book, and closed around 6 months after this book would have been released. There's also 2 pages showing images of Honey, I Shrunk the Audience and Innoventions, which have both been retired. Following the highlights of the park, there's a chapter dedicated to the backstage side of Disneyland. This includes some rare photos of cast members working on the horticulture, as well as costuming, and even a few images of the Circle D Ranch, where all the animal performers live on their days off. Another image is of scuba divers working on the Jungle Cruise, and painters touching up different attractions and facades. The last part of the book reviews the different entertainment, shops, restaurants, holiday events, and even the Disneyland Hotel. Looking at the restaurants, they include an image of the Blue Ribbon Bakery, which is now just known as the Carnation Cafe. Another image that caught my eye is of the shop called Port d'Orleans. This was a mix of the Le Gourmet Shop and other New Orleans-inspired gifts. It is now known as La Baton Rouge. The final image of the book is Mickey Mouse waving from one of the parapets on Sleeping Beauty Castle. It's interesting to note that this book does not mention any future attractions or the soon-to-be-added Disney's California Adventure, like most books of this style would. This incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is an online craft hour on Instagram, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. Be sure to check out Monday's ATD, which is usually hosted by paper artist Russ Romano. I see many amazing art projects, learned about awesome postmarks, postage stamp history, and a lot more on different episodes. It's great to stop in for an hour to watch someone craft or design something unique. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. Front of my incoming postcard has Mickey Mouse standing at the base of Cinderella Castle. You can see him wearing a small yellow bow tie, a white vest, a black tailcoat, and long red pants. On the back it reads, "Welcome, Mickey Mouse has been the beloved symbol of Disney entertainment for more than half a century. Each day he welcomes Magic Kingdom guests with plenty of mouse-ca cheer." It's postmarked June 29, 2024, with an Indianapolis, Indiana dog bite awareness cancel and a Sailboat Forever postcard postage stamp, Scott number 5750. It reads, "Hey there, so I had sent this card with a friend of mine who is going to Disney in Florida. He was supposed to have Mickey sign it, then mail. But he forgot. Sorry. Hope you're a good Scott B. Thank you so much for the postcard, Scott. I can understand how during a whirlwind trip to any Disney park, someone might forget to send a postcard. And I know the line for Mickey Mouse can be very long in Disneyland and in Florida. This was a fun postcard, and the reason I chose the other 2 postcards for this episode, and it reminds me that I wanted to do an episode about Mickey Mouse's costume changes throughout the years. Hopefully I'll get around to that episode soon. I hope all is well with you too. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would be helpful to share your favorite episode to a friend or on social media. There are over 200 to choose from. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment on whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/SentFromDisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sent From Disneyland, or on Twitter at Sent From Disney. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent From Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to its host and guests of the Sent From Disneyland podcast.